It was to 13 a.m. when the call came in. The dispatcher picked up on the third ring, expecting some drunk dial or domestic noise complaint. But instead she heard breathing, ragged, slow, shallow, like someone was hiding or dying. 911, what's your emergency? No response, just more breathing. Then a voice, soft, childlike, almost a whisper. He's upstairs. The call cut out. The dispatcher froze. She looked at the screen. The address pinged to a house on the outskirts of town, a place known to most officers in that area. An old Victorian two-story, left to rot after a fire nearly gutted it 15 years ago. No utilities, no recent activity, completely condemned, and yet the lights were on in the system. The house had a signal. Officer Reynolds was dispatched. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded, grabbed his flashlight, and headed out. The wind was thick that night, the kind that feels like it's whispering just for you. When he pulled up to the house, the first thing he noticed was the front door. Wide open, the porch light shattered. The bulb swung back and forth, creaking on its wire. Inside, it was quiet, too quiet. Dispatch, I'm on scene. Entering now, he stepped in, flashlight cutting through layers of dust. No footprints, no sound, but something felt wrong. The air was cold, colder than it should have been. Hello, police department. If someone's in here, make yourself known. Nothing. He cleared the first floor. Kitchen, empty. Living room, full of cobwebs. The walls still scorched from the fire. Then he heard it. Creak. A rocking chair. Upstairs, Reynolds froze. The air turned heavier, like the house was exhaling all at once. He took one step up the stairs, and his radio crackled violently, static, whispers, then dead silence. He tapped it. Dispatch, are you reading me? No response? He climbed to the top. The hallway was pitch black. His flashlight flickered, just once, and then steadied. At the far end of the hall was the attic door, pulled down, ladder extended. He didn't want to go up, but his legs did anyway. Step by step, the attic opened like a mouth. The rocking chair was moving, back and forth, back and forth. No one sat in it, but on the floor were burn marks, fresh, in the shape of handprints. Then, behind him, a voice. He's here. Reynolds spun around. No one. He descended fast, heart pounding. He left the house and drove straight back to the station. Pale as snow, his hands wouldn't stop shaking. When he tried to report it, the sergeant asked for the 911 recording. The tech team pulled the log ... and found nothing. No call, no number, no recording. The time of the call to 13 a.m., but there was no incoming activity at that time. No one ever called. At least ... not anyone living. Officer Daniels had been on patrol for almost 10 years. He'd seen it all: drug busts, fatal crashes, domestic disputes. But nothing ... ever stuck with him like this. It was just after 3 a.m. on a foggy stretch of rural highway. No traffic, no lights. Just the hum of the cruiser and the occasional flicker of distant headlights long gone. That night, dispatch had received multiple calls about a girl seen walking along Route 16. The callers described her the same way: barefoot, white dress, long black hair, and always alone. The odd part, each caller gave a location nearly 10 miles apart, but all within a 15-minute window. Officer Daniels was the closest, so he was sent to check it out. As he turned onto Route 16, his headlights caught the fog rolling thick across the pavement. His radio was silent. His cruiser was the only thing moving for miles. And then ... he saw her, standing just off the shoulder of the road, facing away. Still, he slowed the cruiser to a crawl, rolled down the window. "Ma'am, are you all right?" No answer. She didn't move. He stepped out of the vehicle. The gravel crunched under his boots. One hand rested on his holster, just in case. The woman, girl, really? Looked no older than 16. Her dress was torn at the hem, her hair matted? Miss, do you need help? Nothing. He was maybe 10 feet away when she turned her head. Not all the way. Just enough that he could see one eye, wide, terrified, and glassy. Are you hurt? She opened her mouth. No sound came out. And then, in a blink, she was gone, vanished, no trace. No footprints, just the low hum of the highway. And a cold, dry wind. Officer Daniel stood frozen for a moment. Then he radioed it in. Dispatch, possible 10 to 57. Pedestrian disappeared from scene. No visual. Investigating area. They told him to return to his vehicle and await backup. He turned ... and saw the girl, sitting in the back seat of his cruiser. Perfectly still, staring at him through the glass. He drew his weapon, approached carefully. But when he opened the door ... the back seat was empty. No sign she'd ever been there. No prints. No indent on the seat. Nothing. He didn't sleep for 2 days after that, and every now and then, even years later, he'd wake up in a cold sweat, the sound of gravel under his boots, the fog in his lungs. And sometimes ... he swore he could see her. In the rearview mirror. For just a second. Still barefoot. Still lost. Still waiting. Officer Mark Benson was working the night shift at the downtown precinct when he got the call. A local convenience store had reported strange activity on their security cameras, something the owner couldn't explain. Mark arrived at the store just past midnight. The neon sign flickered weakly above the door. Inside, the aisles were empty and eerily silent. The only sound was the hum of the old refrigerator units. The owner, a nervous middle-aged man named Carl, explained that over the past week, the cameras had caught something. Shadows moving when no one was there, objects shifting, and once, a figure appearing, standing completely still in the corner of the footage for exactly 3 seconds before vanishing. Mark asked to see the footage. They sat in the cramped office, staring at the grainy video. At first, nothing unusual, just the quiet store at night. Then the corner of the screen flickered. A dark shape appeared. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It just stood there, watching. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. He replayed the clip again and again. No explanation. No trick of the light. Just a shadow. And then it disappeared. The next night, Mark decided to stay late at the store to see if he could catch whatever it was. As midnight approached, the store grew colder. The lights flickered. The humming refrigerator seemed to slow. Mark was checking the aisles when he heard it, a faint whisper. He turned sharply. Nothing. He moved toward the back, flashlight slicing through the darkness. Suddenly, the security monitor showed static. Then, the figure appeared on the screen. This time, it moved, slowly, deliberately, gliding down the aisle. Mark felt the hairs on his neck rise. He tried to call dispatch, but the radio was dead. The store grew silent. No hum, no flicker, no sound at all. Then, footsteps, behind him. He spun around. No one. Just empty aisles. Mark grabbed his radio again. Still dead. Suddenly, the lights snapped back on. The figure was gone. The store was empty. But the feeling of being watched lingered. He left immediately and reported the incident. When the footage was reviewed by the precinct's tech team, they found something disturbing. The video was missing exactly 3 seconds, the moment the figure appeared and vanished. No camera malfunction. No edits, just a blank gap. To this day, Officer Benson refuses to work that night shift. Officer Lisa Martinez had been working nights for over 5 years. She thought she'd seen everything, until the call came through about the old Crestwood Hospital. The hospital had been shut down for nearly a decade after a series of tragic accidents. The building was crumbling, the windows boarded, and the locals said it was haunted, but Lisa had no time for ghost stories. At 1:47 a.m., dispatch received a frantic call, but no one spoke, just silence, no breathing, no background noise, nothing. They tried to trace the call. The number came from inside the city, but it was unregistered, anonymous. Lisa was sent to check it out. When she arrived, the hospital loomed against the night sky, a hollow skeleton of broken glass and rusted metal. The front doors were locked tight, but a window on the ground floor was shattered. Inside, the stale air was thick with decay. Her flashlight barely cut through the darkness as she stepped in. Her radio crackled. "Dispatch, I'm inside." No sign of anyone. Then, a faint sound, a whisper, from the end of a long hallway. She followed it. The walls were covered in peeling paint and old hospital signs. The whisper turned into a voice. Softer, broken. "Help me." Lisa's heart pounded. She rounded the corner and saw a shadow move, just out of sight. She called out, but only silence answered. Suddenly, the lights flickered on, briefly illuminating the shape of a woman in a torn hospital gown, her eyes hollow and empty. Then darkness swallowed the whole way again. Lisa ran out, back at the station. She checked the call logs. There was no record of the silent call, just a timestamp and an eerie stillness. Officer James Carter was no stranger to strange calls, but what happened at the dispatch station that night would haunt him forever. It started as a typical shift. The phones were ringing off the hook with minor incidents, noise complaints, lost pets, traffic accidents. But just after midnight, something changed. James was monitoring the dispatch board when a call came through. The number was local, but untraceable. The caller said nothing, just heavy breathing. James tried to speak. 911, what's your emergency? Silence. Then a whisper, barely audible, don't come here. The line went dead. Minutes later, the phones lit up again. This time dozens of calls, all from the same number, all silent. The station's computers started glitching. Screens flickered. Radios buzzed with static. James felt eyes on him. He looked around, but no one was there. Then the power cut. The station plunged into darkness, save for the emergency lights. James reached for his flashlight. That's when he heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming down the hall outside the dispatch room. He called out, but no answer. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. And then ... silence. James opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the feeling of being watched remained. When the power came back, the call logs had vanished. No record of any calls, no trace of the mysterious number. Only one thing was left on the screen, a single message flashing. I'm still here. Deputy Alan Graves was called out one cold October evening to search for a missing hiker. A 34-year-old man had ventured into Pine Ridge Forest 2 days earlier and never returned. The sun was already setting when Alan arrived. The sky was bleeding red over the treetops. Locals always said Pine Ridge was cursed, that strange lights moved between the trees, and people disappeared without a sound. Alan didn't believe in that nonsense. He had a job to do. He followed the last known trail with a flashlight, his boots crunching on dry leaves. The deeper he went, the quieter the world became. No birds, no wind, just ... silence. Half a mile in, his radio crackled, but no voice came through, just static. And then, faintly, breathing, he stopped. Dispatch. Come again. Nothing. He kept walking. Then he saw it. Scraps of cloth hanging from a branch, torn and stained. Alan drew his weapon and called out, "Sheriff's Department." Hello, a silence. Then, movement. A shadow between the trees, to fast, to tall. He raised his light and scanned the forest. Nothing. Suddenly, behind him, twig snapped. He turned fast. Still nothing. He tried the radio again. Dispatch. Possible contact. Requesting backup. The static turned into a voice. Not a familiar one. Just a whisper. turn around. Alan froze. Something was behind him. He could feel it. He turned, slowly, and saw two pale eyes, wide, inhuman, staring at him from the darkness between the trees. They didn't blink. Then the creature stepped forward. Its body was twisted, impossibly thin, with elongated limbs and skin like tree bark. It made no sound, just stood there, watching him. Alan stepped back, but it moved, impossibly fast, right to the edge of the flashlight's glow. Still silent, still watching, Alan ran. He didn't stop until he saw his cruiser at the edge of the woods. When he turned back, the forest was still, empty. He filed the report, but left out the creature. No one would believe it anyway. But he never went back to Pine Ridge, and sometimes, on cold, quiet nights, he swears he hears breathing on the radio. Officer Daniel Ruiz worked night duty at a small county jail, the kind of place where nothing exciting ever happened. A few drunks, the occasional dealer, quiet and forgettable. But then came Cell 6. The man they brought in that night didn't have a name. No ID. No prints in the system. Just a blood-stained shirt, hollow eyes, and silence. He hadn't spoken a single word since the arrest. According to the arresting officers, he'd been found walking along a rural road, barefoot, soaked in rain, standing perfectly still in the middle of the street. Ruiz remembered the chill that passed over him when he looked into the man's eyes. Not fear, not rage, just nothing. A bottomless kind of emptiness. They processed him anyway. Put him in Cell 6, in the back corner of the holding block. The security cameras caught everything, or they should have. That night, Ruiz was watching the monitors when the feed from Cell 6 glitched. It flickered, froze, then went black. He got up, annoyed, and walked back to check. The door was locked. He peered through the small window. Empty. Cell 6 was empty. No signs of escape. No sound, no damage. Just an empty cot, and a pool of water on the floor. The man was gone. Ruiz called backup. They searched the entire building. Nothing. He reviewed the footage, but now the video showed the cell was never occupied. No man. No processing. Nothing. It was like he was never there. The officers who brought him in, they had no memory of it. They swore Ruiz was mistaken, that no such prisoner had ever been booked. Ruiz checked the logs. The paper report was blank. The digital record missing. Only Ruiz remembered him. And every night since, at exactly 3:07 a.m., Cell 6's lights flicker. The camera glitches, and Ruiz hears footsteps, slow, wet, just outside his office door. He doesn't open it anymore. Officer Michelle Andrews was patrolling Route 19, a long, winding stretch of road surrounded by dense forest, when she saw her. It was just after 2 a.m., and the fog was thick. Visibility was poor. Most drivers avoided the highway at night, not because it was dangerous, but because of the stories. Michelle didn't believe in ghost stories, but that night would change her mind. She was cruising slowly when her headlights caught movement on the shoulder. A small figure. A girl, maybe 10 or 11, barefoot, in a white dress, her hair soaked and tangled. Michelle hit the brakes. She stepped out of the cruiser cautiously, hand resting on her holster. "Hey, sweetie," she called gently. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" The girl didn't respond. She was crying, quietly, shoulders shaking, staring at the ground. Michelle stepped closer. "Are you lost? Do you know your name?" Still nothing. She radioed for assistance, but the radio only gave back a low hiss of static. When Michelle turned back, the girl was gone. She scanned the tree line. Nothing. No footprints. No rustling. Just fog and silence. Suddenly, a scream. Not loud. Not distant. Right behind her. Michelle spun around. Nobody there. Her heart pounded as she backed toward her cruiser. Then she saw it. On the hood. 2 small, wet handprints. She got in and locked the doors. The cruiser's engine stuttered. The lights flickered. And then, the backseat monitor came to life. There she was, the girl, sitting in the back of the car, crying, face hidden behind her hair. Michelle turned around in terror. The seat was empty, but the crying continued, low, muffled, inside the car. She floored it. Didn't stop driving until the station. When they checked the cruiser, the back seat was dry, empty, but the inside of the window still had handprints. No explanation. And since that night, multiple officers have reported seeing the girl on Route 19, always crying, always alone, and always gone ... the moment you get too close. Sergeant Paul Henley had been with the department for over 15 years. Nothing rattled him anymore, or so he thought. The incident with holding cell 3 changed that. It started after a man was brought in for public disturbance, disoriented, barefoot, speaking in riddles. He kept repeating one phrase over and over, "He's in the mirror." They assumed he was on something, booked him, and placed him in holding cell 3. Standard procedure. An hour later, Henley was reviewing footage from earlier arrests when one of the junior officers called him over. "Sir, there's something wrong with the mirror in cell 3. Henley walked to the monitor. The live feed showed the man sitting quietly, but his reflection in the mirror, it wasn't matching his movements. At first, Henley thought it was a delay, a glitch. But then the reflection stood up while the man remained seated. The reflection stared directly into the camera, expressionless, motionless, unblinking. Henley bolted toward the holding area. When he got there, the man was on the floor, sobbing and whispering, "He's out now. I let him out." The mirror, it was shattered from the inside. No sign of how it happened. No object in the cell. No injury to the man. They removed him from the cell. Later that night, Henley reviewed the footage again, and in one single frame, paused at 3:16 a.m., he saw it. A second face. Not the man's. Something else. Something pale, with hollow eyes and a crooked grin, standing inside the mirror, staring out. The system crashed moments later. That frame was the last image ever saved. They sealed holding cell 3, but officers passing by at night have reported strange sounds from inside. Whispers, breathing, a coldness in the air. Some say, if you look at the mirror, you might just see someone looking back. Unit 237 had always been considered cursed. Every officer assigned to that patrol car reported something strange. Unexplainable electrical failures, weird calls, radios acting up, and always the same dream. It started years ago, after the death of Officer Blake Jensen. Blake was responding to a routine call, a trespasser in an abandoned warehouse, when his cruiser veered off the road and crashed into a tree. No skid marks, no signs of braking. He died instantly. After the accident, Unit 237 was repaired and put back in service, but strange things started happening. One night, Officer Craig Donovan was driving 237 down County Route 8 when the radio lit up with a call for backup. The dispatcher's voice sounded off, distant, robotic. "Officer down. Warehouse 17. Respond immediately." Craig didn't recognize the voice. It wasn't from his station. He tried to call it in, but the radio was dead. Then he looked at his GPS. It was rerouting to Warehouse 17. Craig knew that warehouse. It was the same one where Blake Jensen had died. But no call had been logged. No officers dispatched. Still, the cruiser wouldn't let him reroute. The steering locked. The gas pedal stuck. He was being driven there, against his will. The cruiser pulled up to the warehouse on its own. Craig stepped out, gun drawn. The building was pitch black. As he entered, the air turned ice cold, his breath fogged. And then, footsteps on the concrete floor. He followed them deeper inside. Then he saw it. Unit 237, completely totaled, sitting inside the warehouse, its lights flickering. But that was impossible. He had just parked that same cruiser outside. Then came a voice behind him. "I didn't crash." Craig spun around. Standing there in the shadows was Blake Jensen, uniform soaked in blood, eyes hollow, smiling. "I was pulled here," Blake whispered. "Same as you." Craig ran back out, but the cruiser was gone. Only the wreck remained. When other units arrived, Craig was found unconscious on the floor. No other vehicles, no signs of anyone else, but when they checked the dash cam, there was 30 minutes of footage. Craig, alone, driving, arguing, begging, screaming at someone, or something, that wasn't there. They decommissioned Unit 237 after that, but rumor has it, if you're alone, on a foggy night, and you see a cruiser with faded numbers pull up behind you, don't look in the rearview mirror, because it might not be a cop behind the wheel. If you enjoyed these real horror tales from the front lines, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and most importantly subscribe.